Hello there, M&A Advisor community. This is Roger Aguinaldo, and welcome back to the M&A Advisor podcast. Since 1998, the M&A Advisor's mission is to recognize achievements, provide thought leadership, and connect professionals in mergers and acquisitions for the purpose of improving your deal-making craft and accelerating your deal flow. We are so glad you're joining us for this insightful and inspiring podcast conversation curated for mergers and acquisitions professionals. Whether you're an aspiring deal maker, a seasoned professional, or just curious about the world of mergers and acquisitions, you'll find something valuable and relevant in our podcast. Our goal is to bring you the best insights, stories, and tips from the experts who've been there and done that, so you can learn from their successes and mistakes and take your deal-making skills to the next level. But before we dive into today's episode, we have a small favor to ask you. If you enjoy listening to our podcast and find it useful, please consider following us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and subscribing to our M&A Alerts newsletter. You can find the links in the description below. This will help us reach more people like you and grow our community of M&A professionals. It will also let us know that you appreciate our work and want us to keep producing more quality content for you. Plus, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll always be in the loop with the latest trends in the M&A world to improve and accelerate your deal making. So please follow us. You are the reason we do what we do, and we couldn't do it without you. And now for today's podcast. Hello, M&A Advisor community. Welcome to another thought-provoking episode of the M&A Advisor podcast. I'm Roger Aguinaldo, the creator and CEO of the M&A Advisor. Stay tuned as I dive into insightful conversations with top experts in M&A, distressed investing, restructuring, and finance. You won't want to miss their valuable insights. As fall 2024 is now in full swing, the M&A Advisor gears up yet again for its much-awaited signature event of the year, the 2024 Future of Dealmaking Summit, happening on November 19th and 20th at the prestigious New York Athletic Club right here in New York City. This premier gathering promises to showcase transformative ideas, innovative excellence, and collaborative strategies that define the dynamic landscape of global deal-making and M&A. Don't miss your chance to be part of an event that will shape the future of deal-making. And as we explore innovation, strategies, and excellence in the M&A field, it's crucial to spotlight the voices that shape the future of deal-making. And in this context, we are proud to introduce a distinguished thought leader and an expert in restructuring, corporate governance, and crisis advisory. Let's give a warm welcome to Mitch Berlin from EY. Mitch, how are you?
I'm great, Roger. Thanks for having me.
So I'm just going to give maybe a little bit of your bio so we could sort of level set, who you are, but we're going to get right into, what, how you got to where you are and what you're doing today. So Mitch Berlin is vice chair of EY America's Strategy and Transactions, leading a team of over 8,000 professionals across the United States, Canada, Mexico, Central and South America, the Caribbean, and Israel. And with over 25 years at EY, Mitch has played a pivotal role in shaping the firm's approach to corporate strategy and transactions. He was part of the leadership team that developed the strategy and transactions service line, which is dedicated to helping CEOs and business leaders navigate corporate strategy, capital allocation, and transaction advisory. And this practice empowers clients to execute their strategies effectively, enabling fast-track value creation and fostering long-term growth in an ever-changing environment. Mitch continues to advise CEOs of some of the largest clients as an engagement partner. And in particular, Mitch is the executive sponsor of Unity, which is the LGBTQ plus, the BRG Business Resource Group within EY. Mitch earned his bachelor's degree in accounting and finance from the Ohio State University, where he laid the foundation for his extensive career in finance and strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm welcome to a visionary leader, Mitch Berlin. Mitch, again, welcome to the show.
That is a great intro. I'm going to take you with me everywhere I go so you can introduce me.
Okay, well, terrific. I mean, you have a lot, sort of out there, I guess, on your LinkedIn and your social profile. You have a great communications group.
I do.
Group, working with you. Listen, we have a number of people who listen to our podcast that are sort of a little earlier in their careers. A lot of the emerging leaders, sort of later, 10 or 15 years on their in M&A or finance, and potentially looking to get to where you are. Let's start at the beginning. I mean, you're at I guess you're at Ohio State. Are you a Buckeye? You're with the football team over there. Do you go to their games, or you kind of stayed away from that and hit the books?
Well, you know what? I went to Ohio State, but I never went to a Buckeye game because I had to work my way through college and bartended every game. So, I got to watch it on TV while making money.
All right. Well,
We had a good weekend.
You had all the college students probably in the bar with you.
Yes.
Okay. So is that where did you grow up in Ohio? Where did you grow
I did.
up?
I grew up in Cleveland and I received my undergrad from Ohio State.
Okay. And Ohio State was a very good school. Did you play sports? Did you do any of that while there?
I did not. I'm
only saying that because Ohio they got this huge contract with all these, things are changing with football right now, and they're now starting to pay the players. But
no, I mean, maybe that would have been another way to pay for college, but I worked full time during college to make sure I could pay for college and books and not have a ton of debt when I graduated. So my time there was really studying and working. I had fun too, but no sports in that time period.
Well, accounting and finance, I mean, why? I mean, did you were your parents, in business, or was this just something that you kind of gravitated towards?
It's an interesting path. My original major was hotel restaurant management. And after working in hotels and restaurants from 15 to 19, I realized that I don't think I can spend the rest of my life working every Friday night and Saturday night in hotel and restaurants. And God bless those people who do, because it's not easy work. And so after my freshman year, I changed my major to accounting because I thought of accounting in some ways as a professional trade. There was a very defined career path when you graduate in accounting. It was very clear what your options were. And so it made sense to me to be able to graduate and fall right into a very defined trajectory versus some of the more liberal arts majors where, you really have to work to find the right role.
Right. So accounting and finance, I mean, I guess you were good with numbers. You did the bookkeeping, debits and credits with that. That's all you were doing.
Right. Debits on the left, credits on the right. Right.
And then right after that, did you go right into working with an accounting firm in audit?
I started as a general ledger accountant for a cellular company in Columbus. And when I wanted to move to New York, the CFO of that company left EY in New York as a manager and sent my resume. So I moved from being a general ledger accountant for a cellular company in Columbus to getting a job the first day I landed in New York at EY. And that started my career at EY in 1993, 31 years ago.
Wow. So EY was your first and only accounting firm that you've worked with.
It is. And it was a great call because I do think whether you do accounting or auditing for a couple years or for a career, the foundation that it provides you is invaluable. You understand how to analyze financials. You understand how to manage complex programs, your client development skills. You really build in those formative years. You learn how to manage people and work as part of the team. So much of the core foundation of who I am today was developed during those early years as an auditor at EY.
So you did audit. Now, I I have accounting friends, and they hate audit. So how did you kind of make it through? Right? It's somewhat challenging sometimes, right?
It is, but I like structure, right? And so part of it was that there's a right and wrong answer when you're in accounting. There's very little gray area left to interpretation. So I like the fact that there's clearly defined answers. There's a very clear way to audit an organization. And I really thrived under that discipline and structure that provided for the first, 7 or 8 years of my life. And then I moved on to do things that allowed me to be a bit more of a free thinker, and put me in more creative settings, or, and allowed me to focus more on the operations versus the financials.
Right. So let's kind of shift. So you're at audit for 7, 8 years. Did you become an audit partner at some point? I mean, what's the track?
No, so I was an audit, and then I was the national resident for retail and consumer products and audit, which means I worked on a lot of research. That was in 1999. E-commerce had just started. We did a bunch of studies in e-commerce around shopping carts, abandoned shopping carts, how much it takes to acquire a new customer, those sort of things. So that was really interesting.
Wow, so we're right in the beginning there when retail was kind of looking into e-commerce.
It was. And so I actually left the firm for a year to do a .com startup in e-commerce because I found it very interesting. And then I quickly came back with a .com bubble burst. And that's when I made my transition.
What did that? This is interesting. What did that company do? So it was like an e-commerce. Was it like an Amazon type company?
It was. The concept was to bring the authentic Italian lifestyle to America via the internet. And so we traveled around to these artisanal food purveyors throughout Italy. It was almost like the J. Peterman of food. And we would write stories about where the food was produced, how it was produced, and sell it over the internet. We were about
10 years ahead of
our
Yeah, you're 10 years ahead of your
20
time.
years ahead of our time. 20 years ahead of our time.
I think you can dust off that business plan, and I think you now have the resources to make a go with it.
I think so. I just like the travel part of it now.
Okay. So there are travel blogs. Is that kind of what your passion? Do you travel?
I do like to travel. I mean, the good thing about doing what I do is you do get to travel a lot and immerse yourself in many, many cultures that you wouldn't normally have sitting in, New York.
Right. So you left E&Y
for a year.
Well, it was called, what was called back then?
It was still EY. It was Ernst & Young then.
Ernst & Young. Right.
Yeah.
Ernst & Young. So you left. I mean, that's risky.
It was risky, but I also, you don't want to have any regrets, but the grass is always greener. So I came back and they offered me 3 different roles. I can go back into audit. I can go into.
So they said, okay, come on back.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, I know I left on good terms, which is always important. Leave on good terms, right? I can go back into audit. I can go into tax, which I wasn't interested in. Or I can do this role in global, helping build out our sales and revenue planning infrastructure around the world. So, with a passion for global travel, I raised my hand for that, came back and did that for a couple of years, and then ultimately moved into the transactions practice 3 years later. We're just building the M&A practice.
Yeah. So that's so the traveling, I mean, you're younger, I guess. When you're younger, sure, we'll go. So where did it take you?
Oh, it took me to Russia, it took me to Finland and Norway and Greece and France. I mean, all over Eastern and Western.
A lot of Europe.
Yeah, a lot of Eastern and Western Europe primarily.
So Russia, that was what, early 2000s, 90?
Yes, that was 2001.
So that
in
was
February. And still cold.
So that one must have been challenging. I mean, the Russian, I guess the Soviet Union was now, all developing into their own different countries.
Right.
So how was that experience with sort of the political aspect of things there? And you're trying to generate audit business, I guess.
Well,
calling all M&A restructuring and corporate finance professionals. I'm Roger Aguinaldo, the creator and CEO of the M&A Advisor, and I have some great news for you. You are warmly invited to the exclusive Deal Forum at the 2024 Future of Dealmaking Summit on November 20th, 2024 at the prestigious New York Athletic Club in the heart of New York City. Light up your M&A career and ignite your deal-making skills. Join us at the all-new Deal Forum of the 2024 Future of Dealmaking Summit. This assembly gathers business insiders and deal makers to discuss the top trends, opportunities, and key issues facing the mergers and acquisitions market. The faculty, comprised of industry experts, participate in fireside chat sessions where they engage in insightful discussions moderated by prominent media personalities and thought leaders, keynote conversations, and M&A TV interviews. Finally, network, exchange ideas, and gain valuable insights in a face-to-face conversation with a thought leader of your choice in one-on-one meetings. To know more about the Deal Forum at the Future of Dealmaking Summit or to register, visit our website at www.maadvisor.com. That's maadvisor.com. Email us at events@maadvisor.com or call +1 212 951 1550. That's 212 951 1550. Don't miss out. Register now. The future of deal making awaits.
For my role, it was very interesting. My role was really to help them build an infrastructure to do sales planning and revenue tracking. So my role at that point was internal. But I will tell you, it was very interesting going over there, getting through the airport both ways, took about 4 hours. You know, there are many different lines you had to stand in. I think it's very different now from what from what I understood. But I will tell you, what I found most interesting was the work ethic was just incredible. People were working very early in the morning till very, very late at night. You can just see a desire for them to try to make this work. You know, it was really impressive.
Not like other parts of Europe where they kind of take a siesta, like two, three in the afternoon till like 6 or something.
Well, I could get used to that too.
Well, I know with there's a joke when at least when my family and I traveled to Europe that the French say, you know, you Americans, you live to work. We work to live, right? So,
right.
Hence they look like they're all having a good time.
Yeah, no, Roger, you have to wonder who's got it right, them or us, right?
There's a balance.
Yeah.
I mean, there's balance. I mean, they do have, every day it's like, wow, there's so many protests here in Paris. I'm like, oh, this is every day. Everybody protests. They have so much time to protest, do all these things. But yeah, they know how to live. I mean, they do. So you've been to, Europe and, which is your sort of one of your favorite countries?
I actually think France and Italy are probably my favorite countries.
Yeah.
Primarily because of the food.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You wrote a travel food blog, right? Or you had that company. I seriously think that you can, start up there's probably lots of these things out there that you can do. But yeah, France and Italy, two of my, Italy, of course is, very good. Their wines, they drink wine like water over there.
It's much more affordable.
Yeah, it is. So you're there. Then you want to come back. Why are you now coming back to the US?
When I was in the internal role, I was not on a partner track. So I wanted to get back into a client serving role that would put me on the partner track. So when I came back, that's when I went into the transactions advisory services practice. As it was at the time. We were just starting that practice up. It was primarily a financial diligence, valuation, and tax practice at the time.
Right. And what year was this?
This was 2002. 2003.
Okay. Yeah. 2002, 2003. So, again, we have people who are slightly earlier in their career than you, or early in their career. And did you have coaches, mentors, people that kind of, looked out for you or helping you guide you through, what a partner track could look like at EY?
I did. I had a great friend who had worked with me when I was in that global role. She introduced me to the person who was driving a lot of the markets activity within the transactions practice, who ultimately brought me on. And
Yeah.
so through that, I worked my way into a new service that we were offering, which was called post-merger integration at the time. So it was
Okay.
really what we had before that was really more focused on the financial, accounting, and tax. Sort of efforts of M&A. This focused more on the operational efforts. How do you actually make this business work when you bring these two businesses together, or how do you actually carve out a business and deliver to a buyer on day one? And so I
Right.
was, I think, employee number 9 in what that practice was then, which we now call EY Parthenon, which, has over 2,500 employees now in the US.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So do you oversee that now, or you moved
I
on to
do. So
another?
I oversee all of the strategy and transactions work in the Americas
Okay.
and
Okay.
still serve clients at the same time. You
Right.
got to,
Okay. Wow.
you got to stay
That's
relevant.
all right. So that was a quick, wanted to get so 2003, you're beginning this sort of, the due diligence practice, more M&A practice,
Right.
right? Versus audit. Now, are you going to all your audit? Are you able to do this? Because I know there are some certain rules, but are you able to go to your audit clients and say, hey, are you doing any M&A stuff? Are the audit partners coming to you? Is that how you kind of,
There are some things we can do around financial diligence, but our efforts are really focused on our non-audit clients. And then the work
okay,
that I focused on was more the operational part. So when you think of the operational functions of an organization, HR, IT, finance and accounting, all the supply chain parts of it, like how do you, if you're combining two companies, how do you calculate the synergies of company A buying company B? And then how do you actually make those come to life over the subsequent year or two post close? Or if you're selling a company, a part of the business, how do you carve that part of the business out and deliver it? Those, that really cut across the functions of an organization. So that allowed me to take create a new skill set more around the operational side of an organization versus the financial side.
right, right. So why don't we just step back a bit? Because, I went over your bio, but there's a lot of things that your team of 8,000 professionals do. So describe the specific services that you provide to your clients. Describe your clients. What value EY brings to them. Who perhaps some of your competitors are, or some of the other firms that do what you do, so that people get a sense of sort of how broad you actually things were.
We have a pretty broad umbrella of services that we do. I'll try to take it in chronological order from a deal as much as I can. First, we have a transaction tax practice that helps our clients think through how they can do this transaction in the best way to make sure that they are minimizing the tax implications of the deal. Right. So could it be a tax-free spin, for example, versus a taxable event? So that starts at the very beginning.
You have
Figure
a
out,
tax practice.
right.
Is that one of your largest?
It is.
Is
Yes, we have a very large tax practice, and we have a part of that that's just focused on transactions, on M&A. Then we have a practice that does commercial diligence to understand from a market's perspective, does this deal make sense for the buyer? Are you going to attract the markets that you want? Are you going to be able to play in the markets that you want to play? What is the reputation of this particular company in a market? So we actually can do primary research to determine if you make this acquisition, are you going to get the market reaction that you're expecting, or be able to grow in the markets that you want to grow?
so is that similar to sort of what a BCG does, or
Yes.
or
Yeah.
McKinsey?
Our
Equivalent?
competitors with that are generally BCG, Bain, and McKinsey for that,
Yeah.
the strategy
Okay.
houses. Then we also have a financial diligence practice. So it really looks at quality of earnings to make sure, that what you expect the business to do, it can actually do from a financial performance perspective, eliminating any anomalies, making sure that that ultimately, when you forecast that out 3 to 5 years, that is actually going to be realizable based on historical performance. And from there, we have a valuation practice that really goes through the modeling to understand what should you ultimately pay for this business, what should the multiple be. That makes sense based on the models that you're building and the assumptions that you make around risk and such. Then from that point, we also have we address all the operational diligence too. So IT diligence, are the systems updated? Can they actually scale? Operations diligence, how do you plug in HR, finance, et cetera, and make that work? What are the potential synergies? All the way through post-close, making all that come to life. So it's really the entire gamut of everything from beginning to end. The beauty is of EY that very few firms are able to put that all together into one service offering. So having the valuation practice, having a tax practice, those are big differentiators for a firm like EY.
Yeah. So, and it sounds like you not only say, hey, this is what you should, we're doing the due diligence, this makes sense. And not only does it make sense, we can actually, if you want, we can, after you close the deal, we can help implement it for you.
And that actually strengthens our ability to do the diligence, because when our diligence is executed in the realities of practical execution, right? So, because we've done a lot of the post-close execution, we really understand where the traps and obstacles are going to be during the diligence phase.
Right. You walk the walk, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Or walk the talk, I guess that's is that the point of differentiation between sort of EY and maybe a number of other disparate, evaluation firm, for instance, or, and the other disparate types of firms?
It is. I think that the tax practice, the valuation practice, and the ability to tap into our deep accounting expertise as well, I think is a differentiator from some of the strategy firms and other boutique firms that may be out there. I don't think they can bring all that to the table. And when you really, and tax in particular, there are 3 legs to every deal. There's like tax, operational, and financial. And if you're missing tax, it's very hard to really understand the timing and the true value of a deal if you don't understand the tax implications of what you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's it sounds pretty complicated to balance all of these.
It is. But the good thing is we all work very closely together, and we have for years. So, we know when to bring people to the table to provide the right inputs.
Well, I usually like to talk about, let me talk about your career. I'm going to put your career and how you got to, from number 9 to number 1 of 8,000 people. So I'm going to put that to the side for a second, because I think this might be interesting, I think, to our listeners, besides how you got to where you are, which is 8,000 people. Do you have challenges? Where do you get all these people? How are you bringing them on? How are you hiring them? Are you, currently hiring more people? If someone's interested in perhaps changing their firm or their career, how would they reach out to join your team, and why should they join your team?
So we do a large campus recruiting effort. So in any year, somewhere between 5 to 10% of our employee base comes from campus.
Okay. Are you going to Ohio State? Are you going over there?
You're going to shame me. No, a lot of our hires are MBA. We go to a lot of the Ivy League MBAs.
You got to say the MBAs. Okay, you're only going to the Ivy Leagues.
Well,
you're not.
We mix it up a bit. But we go to the top 20 MBA schools, and then we also do undergrad as well. But we try to pair that up where the MBA programs are, because it just makes it more efficient for us. Okay. So, and we want to, we don't want to spread ourselves thin, because when you're doing campus recruiting, the more presence you have on a campus, the better your results are in attracting the top talent. So if you peanut butter it over 50 different campuses, you're going to have less of an impact. And so we need to get that tight. And so we bring in those. And then at the most senior levels, we do bring in direct intimate partners. What we have is a really interesting tapestry of talent unlike any other firm out there, because we do bring in a lot of direct admit partners that have very specific skills, whether it be in supply chain or markets or particular industry. And so when you look at our partner ranks, I would say about 20% of them have come from other firms and organizations with a very specific talent that we need to complete this really interesting tapestry of talent to serve our clients. In between, we do promotes at the experienced higher level. So at the senior, the senior manager level, when we, when the market grows, we will bring people in from the outside to fill those roles as well.
It sounds like you like to homegrown your people, right? It's if you're at a lot of college campuses and train them the EY culture.
We do, there aren't any, you never graduate with a degree in M&A, right? And so what we provide our campus hires is truly over the next 3 years of their career, a degree in M&A. And so when you grow your own, you really are able to create a solid foundation in buy side and sell side and financial and operational. So by the time someone is 3 years in, they'd have a really an informal MBA, not only on how M&A works, but how organizations work, because we're really dissecting an organization head to tail.
Yeah. So you're hiring on the bachelor level or the master's level?
Both.
Okay. So and you're bringing them onto the transaction side. They're not coming onto audit.
We bring them directly into the transaction side. We do bring people from our audit practice into our financial diligence practice as well. So if they do want, one of the benefits of working for a large organization is people should be able to move around the organization. And so if people want to move from audit into transaction diligence, we do get a lot of.
This is my perspective, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I think more audit people want to move into M&A than M&A people move into audit, right?
We do see that flow. We do see that flow more, but it all depends.
Deals are exciting.
It is, right? But there's also a lot of stability in audit that, when you're in audit, what your year is going to look like, where you're going, when you're in M&A, you get a call on Friday, you got to land somewhere on Sunday. It's very unpredictable. So, people are looking for, at certain points in their life, need more predictability.
So do you see, and let's be practical about that. Do you see those people with, maybe, families and, they want that predictability. They'll sort of, yeah, you're right. I'll let me do audit because I know that, I got to close my books on Monday versus like transaction work, it's going to, you're right. You're all over you could be all over.
It's an interesting question. So we around 10 years ago, we really saw people leaving at the manager level. A lot of them are female managers. And so we asked, why are you leaving? And their view was like, I just can't see how I can do this job and raise a family. And that was a big wake up call for us. And so what we did around that was we really unpacked all the things that you do at a client site and said, these are like 10 things that you're at a client site, but you're never really interacting with a client on. And so we were able to repack those and say, okay, those things you can do from your local EY office and you can do it when you want. So if you need to, come in later because the nanny doesn't get there till a certain hour, you need to leave a little earlier to relieve the nanny, then you could do that, but your schedule is much more predictable. The interesting thing was, so we called it the NEST, the Nucleus for Excellence in Strategic Transactions, because we're branding geniuses here.
And we'll see that at accounting firms, right?
Exactly. And what happened, it was really interesting, Roger, because ultimately about 40% of the people in the nest were men who were starting families and their wives wanted them local. So, this really turned out to be, this is pre-COVID. Now, the work arrangements are a little different, but this was a real differentiator for us because you were able to stay in M&A. You weren't taken off your trajectory because you weren't put in an internal role for 2 years that, didn't give you the reps. You're able to keep your reps going and then ultimately get promoted to partners. So it was a big, big change for us, both for our men and our women starting families.
Well, I'm glad we happened upon this topic because I think we want to talk about diversity and having other people in here, but there's a challenge, not only other places, but certainly in M&A where you're right. It's tremendously unpredictable, right? And when you're in a deal, you're living that deal 24/7. You are right. you got to get the blinders on. It's a live deal. And sometimes you get a call at 2 a.m. because something needs to get done at that board meeting at 8 a.m. Right. So taking people off, and having them balance with their families. You've identified, you said women were leaving, but then you said, males. Tell us a little bit more, about that. Are you still facing those challenges? I mean, I guess it's sort of an everyday thing.
We're facing those challenges less now because after COVID, a lot of people are on flexible work arrangements. But I will say this definitely helped a lot because it created predictability in your life and didn't take you off your trajectory. And, we thought we were solving for one problem, we solved for two. I do think overall, the recommendation we have for our people who are starting families, whether it's the husband or wife who's working for us, is that you really have to have a discussion with your spouse around what this lifestyle means and figure out how you're going to work it. And we always try, we'll do panels and provide different examples. So for some people, their spouse decides that they're going to, that the person who works here is a primary, financial provider, and that person is the spouse is going to stay at home. For others, they're going to outsource as much as they can. For others, they get nannies and maybe a weekend nanny. There's no right answer. But we encourage people to talk to others who are making it work to really understand how it's working for them and give them options on how to maybe employ some of those tactics for themselves. But you really have to have a good discussion with your other half because this is not, predictable work. And having those upfront discussions, particularly before you have children, I think is critical.
Right. It sounds like that's important in the EY and in your culture as a leader. Why is that?
It is, but look, we invest a lot in our people, and if people really have the desire to want to be here, we want them to be here. And I think that they spend half their life here and half their life, at home. We want to make sure
it's more than half their life, right?
Perhaps sometimes more than half their life, but we want to make sure that their life is balanced and that they're happy on both sides of that, equation there. And so we really encourage those dialogues and discussions. And, we have a great, help hotlines that they can reach out and speak to therapists if they need and things like that. So we really try to provide, a foundation for our people to be happy at home, happy at work, fulfilled professionally, fulfilled personally.
I get that from you. I think there's a real sincerity there. Was that all of EY from 2003, or did things shift over those sort of 20 plus years?
I mean, I think in general, we always had it. EY always had a people first, sort of mantra that I think they really took very, very seriously. I think as we were building out the M&A practice, things became very unpredictable. And I think that was our first foray into deal work. And so we were trying, it took a while to sort of appreciate the problem, work our way through it, and try to come up with solutions. And we're still working every day to try to figure out how to make sure that our people are taken care of. So, it's not, this will continue, for the rest of our lives, right? To figure.
Yeah. Well, there might be a good time to bring up, you're the executive sponsor of Unity. So describe what Unity is, what its mission within EY, and how how effective it's been in attracting. I think you want to attract and maintain good quality people at the end of the day, right? You want to have good, competent people,
right?
Doing, excellent work for your clients. And what can others listening to this learn from what you're doing?
So Unity is our LGBTQ plus business resource group. I'm the executive sponsor of that, which I took on around 3 years ago. The goal of these business resource groups are to make sure that people see people that look like them working at the firm and hopefully in elevated positions. One of the things we did last year was a study that really tried to assess psychological safety of LGBTQ plus employees. It wasn't we didn't give it to EY employees. It was more, we hired a third party firm to survey 500 managers and above at different organizations to understand that. What's interesting from that one, and that was the first year, so I don't have a year over year, comparisons on that one yet, but what was interesting is that 20% of Gen Zs identify as LGBTQ plus. And when you think for a professional services firm that does a lot of hiring on campus, if you look out 5-6 years from now, a significant portion of your workforce is going to be Gen Zs, and 20% of those identify as LGBTQ plus. And so if you're not creating an environment that makes them feel safe, that makes them feel recognized, then you're cutting yourself off to a large portion of the population. The same goes for our Black and Latinx communities as well. We haven't, Unity does not sponsor that specific study, but it's, it's going to be a much more diverse workforce going forward as well. And so I do think as employers that want to attract and retain top talent, you really have to be focused on who your talent is and what's important to them. And by the way, it may just not be LGBTQ plus people, but parents of children who are LGBTQ plus, brothers, sisters, and friends, allies. And so it goes much more beyond that 20%.
And what is this sort of a support group? You get together, you network, you connect. What do you do within the?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we're a couple of things. One is we want to create community. So people feel like they have someone that they can talk to if they're having, challenges and such. And, we create some mentorship and sponsorship opportunities there. A lot of what we're focused on these days is entrepreneurship and working with LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs to help them evolve their businesses. At our strategic growth forum in Palm Springs later this month, we'll host our third annual luncheon of LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs, and to help them understand, how do you raise money? How do you find a firm, whether it's a venture capitalist or private equity, that shares the same sort of morals and ethics that you do? And how do you match up with them? What sort of questions? What are some of the unwritten signs that you should be looking for and such? So we try to convene communities around entrepreneurship as well as philanthropy. So we volunteer our time for different LGBTQ plus organizations. It's a good network to find a workforce of volunteers that support the community as well.
Right. So it's not just internal EY, it's you're doing community outreach.
Absolutely.
Perhaps to your clients as well.
Right. And we talk about building a better working world. This is part of how we're building a better working world. It's more than just about us. We live in a community that needs our help, and we should be out there and helping.
Yeah. So why the passion? Why on this? What personally why did you want to, head this group and do this?
So for me, I joined EY in 93 as an out gay man, and that was, a choice that I made. And actually I felt very supported. And I think this is a way to play it forward. I was not active, to be honest. I was not involved that much in the group until 3 years ago, because I just, I wanted to make it as a leading M&A professional, not, trying to check a box or fill anything. But, it's important for me that people feel the same way, and that they see that there is a gay leader on the board that, has their best interests at heart and is fighting for them and such. So I do think it makes a difference. When we did this survey, like two of the things that we do right that keep people, that keep their LGBTQ plus employees at their firm, is they want to see visible gay leaders in their organization, and they want to make sure there's business resource groups that have purpose.
Right. One of our Lifetime Achievement Award winners last year was Cesar Alvarez, who is a Cuban immigrant who initially kind of turned down, and he works for Greenberg Trauger. He was a leader over at Greenberg Trauger, big law firm, and he initially turned it down. He says, "Well, I'm old now. I'm not really active." I'm like, and I said, "Cesar, you need to show up and inspire other people and be out there as a Cuban immigrant, and to show that, look, in the 70s, not many Cuban immigrants were at these firms, and you helped. So, I, applaud you for, if you will, stepping out and showing the leadership. It's very important, I think, that we all share our uniqueness because we want people to aspire to leadership roles and not utilize what their sexuality or their color or whatever, prevents them. And it's all about competence. Now, I would think that it's all about merit because that's what it should be, right? It should be, you got to be good at what you do.
Right. Exactly. But it's good for them to see there's not a glass ceiling.
Right. So how did you, kind of get to where you are? And not only, everybody has their own different path, but how would you recommend others sort of, if you were sort of mentoring others that are in their sort of, late 30s, early 40s to kind of, be in these leadership positions? What would you recommend to them? Do you have any advice?
Well, I think you have to be very well-rounded as a professional. First, you have to, I think it's very important that when you're working in project-based work, you want to be the partner that everyone wants to work for, because then you get the best talent. When you work, if you're not, people can be very creative, whether it's a law firm, an investment bank, another advisory firm. People can be very creative on how to get out of working for a particular person. But if you're the person that everyone wants to work for because you challenge them, you allow them to have fun, you respect them, you treat them well, you get to know their family, then they're going to want to work for you, and you're always going to be surrounding yourself with the top talent. So that's, I think, first and foremost. Like, I am so fortunate. I have an incredible leadership team now. I had an incredible team around me growing up throughout my entire 31 years at the firm. I really had terrific people that made me look good. And I worked really hard to make sure that they felt valued, respected, and also had fun. Like, I've got a great sense of humor. It's important for me that we laugh a lot, because you're working long hours and you're trapped in a big conference room with people. Like, you actually want to go out to dinner with them after working 10, 12 hours, right? And have a good time.
It sounds like you get to know your people very well on a personal level.
I do. 75% of the people at my wedding were from EY. Yeah. So you make lifelong friendships.
Well, no, that's very important. I think, especially since it sounds like you spend much more than half your time at E&Y.
Yeah.
EY.
Well, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So I have a very good personal relationship too. But I think the other part of it then is in terms of what you have to do. I think you have to be intellectually curious. You have to say yes. When opportunities come, don't be afraid. Like, say yes, take them on, show that you're willing to stretch yourself, show that you're willing to try new things, whether it's new industries, new services, new technology. Like, you really need to say yes and be the one that is not only treating their team really, well, but also that's raising their hand for new things. I travel. I spent 7 months in Munich on a project that was great. So I say yes to international assignments. I say yes to new projects, new industries. And I think that those things really get noticed. And then you just have to deliver, high quality work on a consistent basis. No one's perfect, and no one expects you to hit a home run every time, but you have to deliver high quality work on a consistent basis so people can depend on you. And I think if you did those things, you'll rise to the top.
So going back to what you said earlier, did you have the discussion with your partner about the job you're getting involved in? Does your partner know that sometimes you're going to be away in Munich for 7 months or something?
Yeah, he was fine with that. And he's now retired, but at the time, he had spent 30 years between Merrill Lynch Investment Management and BlackRock. So we both had pretty intense jobs, and our careers were very important to us. So that was an easy discussion.
Well, he worked for BlackRock, and he was retired now,
Yes.
so he'll probably travel with you wherever you go, right? Now's the time. By the way, I tell my wife, now's the time to travel, because you don't want to wait. A lot of people now wait. I guess all the financial advisors save for your retirement so you could travel when you're in the 80s. And I'm in my 80s. I just want to be sitting in front of a TV and just want to be.
Roger, our retirement people tell you when you think of your retirement, think of the go-go, the slow-go, and the no-go years. And the go-go years are like your first 10 years after retirement when you're traveling, which is probably like 60 to 70. The slow-go is maybe you're taking trips here and there, and the no-go is when you're not leaving your home.
Yeah,
and so they said, plan your finances around go-go, slow-go, no-go.
Right. Well,
80 is no-go.
I think we should, because you have the wherewithal to do it. I think you should shift that by a decade and a half, right? Because in your really in your 40s and 50s, that's really a good time to travel. But
Yeah.
that's also when you're still raising a family and working really hard and to get to that partnership.
Yeah, but we did, like, 10 years ago, we did make a conscious decision to adopt a healthier lifestyle, like
Yeah.
eating better, exercising on a regular basis, because the last thing you want to do is kill yourself and, till you retire and not be able to do the things that you want to do. So
You look like you're in good shape. What do you do?
I jog and I walk on a regular basis.
Okay,
Mm.
jog and walk. Or you go to the gym. You do that,
On
and
and
you.
off, on and off. I need to
Okay.
start again. I need,
Okay.
but I at least I try to move every day. I do think it's, like there's something therapeutic about walking every morning and clearing your head. So,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
jogging, depending on the weather.
And is that a habit that you sort of clear your head? Do you recommend others to do? I mean,
100%.
we're just trying to get the habits of
I am up at 5:30
of
walking in the morning, every day. And it's the days that I don't, it's a very different day.
yeah, yeah, just that alone time,
Then you
right?
clear your head, you get your blood pumping, you feel better about yourself for the rest of the day. And so the only time I have control of my life is in the mornings, because you never know what the day is going to hold. So I have to, get up early and just take advantage of that time.
Right. Well, and how like an hour,
An hour.
5:30 to
Yeah,
6:30.
an hour.
And then okay. All right, that's good advice,
It's a good
actually.
routine.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just talk about as we wrap up, where do you think this M&A business is going, no matter who, wins the election. Where do you think M&A is going to be 2025 on? I mean, is this, did we make a right choice to be in this business?
I think we did. Look, it's been a really challenging, 2 years. M&A activity for
Yes.
2024 is actually up 20% as of the end of September. At least we track deals above 100 million. So it is up, but we are definitely seeing, on deals announced, but then they get paused and stopped, whether it's because the bid ask is too far away, or FTC DOJ challenges, the particular deal and such. But, from what our clients are telling us, and we're sensing, calendar 2025 is going to be a very different year than the last few years. I think there is a lot of
In
anxiety.
what way?
Well, I think there'll be more activity. I think there's anxiety around the presidential election, because you're not quite sure what risk to build into your models, because each of the two, nominees bring a different set of risk. One may be around more regulatory issues, and maybe different tax issues. The other may be more around international issues and such. And so when you're building a model, what volatility are you building into that? So I think that will be cleared up within a week. And so I think that will
Maybe we'll see.
a week, maybe not. It depends.
Maybe when you are going to be speaking at
Well,
our Future of
yeah.
Dealmaking Summit, so it'll be hopefully post election, and we'll know the results. So we'll
Yes. Oh my God. If we don't know by then, we're in trouble.
well,
Yeah.
in 2000 we didn't know until like almost the next year.
Yes.
So that would mean for M&A. One of the things I think we talked about this before. You have a studio. Your office is in the Hudson Yards, and you have sort of a studio over there. And we agreed that we're going to do sort of maybe a quarterly or periodic. I won't hold you to
Yes.
quarter, but a periodic update on how M&A is doing.
Yes. Because it
And
changes all the time, right?
changes for time. So we'll have a periodic, and we'll figure out how to do that. You say you have a lovely studio over there.
We have a great studio here in Hudson Yards. We'd love to have you give quarterly or periodic updates on M&A, what we're seeing both on the corporate side and private equity side, different trends and such. We can bring in, guest speakers that are experts by industry, whatever you need.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to get it on record.
It's on
Mitch.
record. Yes.
So no, I appreciate that. That would be actually really, really, really be good. I think I think people would like that and just really understand it. Now we have an awards program that EY has been nominated and finalist and has won in the past. Hopefully are you going to be at the awards gala, or you're just going to be there during the deal
I
forum?
think I'll be at the awards gala. I can fit into my tuxedo. I got to walk a lot more.
Well, you have to. Well, you have to. It is a black tie preferred event. Black tie. We won't toss you out if you come in, a suit and tie. But that's it. Listen, this has been a wonderful conversation. Is there anything, Mitch, that we didn't cover or you wanted to share?
I think we touched on a lot. I do think it's going to be an interesting year, 2025 for M&A. Not only the presidential elections, we'll continue to see the Fed borrowing rates go down. Private equity is still sitting on a lot of dry powder they have to deploy. So I think, teams are going to be mobilizing pretty quickly, in Q1 of 2025 to get back out there in the market.
Well, I would think, the growth of your practice, was it mostly because of the growth of private equity? I mean, PE is doing a lot of the transactions versus the corporate strategic, right?
A lot of it is the just growth in M&A. Like deal activity has really picked up consistently up until around 2021, and then it dropped 2022, and then it dropped. But also the services that we're doing, we've certainly expanded our portfolio of services to go broader and deeper. So that's attributed to some of the great.
I was just saying the financial buyer universe is much larger than it was in 2003 when you started the track. Right?
Yes.
So I would
definitely an uptick in private equities. Yeah. Raising new funds. All that. Yeah.
Yeah. All that. But we're going to have a number of capital providers at that deal. At the deal forum during the day as well, doing a lot of one-on-one meetings. But I'm looking forward to meeting you in person and hearing your fireside chat. I think we'll have a little bit of we'll know what hopefully the results will be. But this is a wonderful conversation. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did very much. It was a great chat. Thank you.
Okay. Terrific. Ladies and gentlemen, Mitch Berlin. Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, Roger.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new from it. If you have any questions or comments for us or any of our guests, please feel free to leave them in the podcast platform of your choice or send us an email at editor@maadvisor.com. We would love to hear from you and get your feedback. And if you haven't done so already, please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and subscribe to our M&A Alerts newsletter at the links in the description or on our website at www.maadvisor.com. This will help you stay updated on the latest M&A interviews and trends and support our podcast to grow and reach more listeners like you. This is Roger Aguinaldo, the creator and founder of the M&A Advisor. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our M&A Advisor community. Until next time, stay safe and happy dealing.